Okay, so I figured I would start recording some PIO sessions, just really to hold me accountable and make sure that I actually do them. Just kind of one hand per study session type thing. From the week, trying to do PIO, 2 or 3 times a week to get a grasp of what I should be doing in certain spots. So this is the hand I'm going to do. It is a blind v blind hand from 100 NL on Ignition. And I'll just let it run here, I guess, So pre-flop, we have a guy short stacking, playing 32, 26, 20, only 30 hands though, so not really a huge sample, but he does, short stacking, kind of these stats kind of seems to be recreational. So immediately that's kind of my thought. Over these 30 hands, he's opened the button 100% of the times and the small blind every time, so this is a super wide range. I do like to just call. I think there is some merit to 3-betting this, but I guess I'd rather 3-bet linearly, so he has like 10-9 suited, 10-8 suited, and kind of just call these types of hands. Flop is 7-4-4, two-tone. I kind of looked at the flop already on PIO, as you probably saw it up, but I don't think this really favors either one of us. He still has all the overpairs. We probably both have the same amount of fours. We're probably playing pretty similar ranges, except I don't have the overpairs, so I guess this is just a better flop for him. He bets pretty big, which is weird on this flop. I would probably just bet 1/3 with all of my range here. Maybe not sevens, or like 7-4 suited. But I think this is too big. And I think in the hand, I was telling myself, given that this guy's a recreational playing a wide range, I should probably raise for like equity denial and kind of that kind of stuff. But it gets awkward on his stack depth if I raise and he jams, I just have to call it off. And that's not that fun because I don't know how often this guy's bluffing, but given his stats, it might be enough, and this is probably a mistake. That said, we do call and we see a queen of spades turn, which brings in some backdoors, right? Like if he has ace-5 or 2 spades or something like that. This is also, an overcard is going to be a barrel card a lot. I don't know how often recreationals know that. I probably just have a 7 here or a heart draw or like 6-5, 8-5 type stuff. And so this card isn't great for me unless I have exactly queen X of hearts or like queen 7, queen 4 suited, of which there's 2 combos. So it probably gets barreled a lot. And he does, again, about 2/3. I definitely can't fold. I think at this point in time, I'm thinking to myself, not having 7-6 or 7-5 or 8-7 is good because we block some of those potential draws like 8-5, 6-5. 6-3, 5-3 type stuff. Not having a heart or a spade is really good. And so just calling here, I think, to, allow him to bluff off. River is weird. A lot of those hands I just talked about, 8-5, 6-5, just got there. But that said, backdoor spades and front door hearts both missed. And I think I should be calling here pretty often. He decides to just hit the half pot button. I would imagine, looking back on it, I would imagine that if he has a straight right 6-5 or something, I bet a lot of recreationals just either pot it or jam here to rep a missed flush draw. Give this perception that they're bluffing, yada yada, when in reality they probably aren't really ever taking that sizing and probably are just clicking a preset sizing like the half pot button when they do miss. That said, I did muck, which is, I think, a pretty big mistake. Does he have a heart draw 5-3, something like that? At least a quarter of the time, and the answer is almost definitely yes. But I was thinking to myself, not having hearts or spades is good, but now I wish I had 10-6 or 7-6 or 7-5. But I think I also am folding those on the turn, so I don't really have those hands here, other than like 7-6, 7-5 of spades. And he's not really. I don't think this type of player is either capable of betting thin for value here with an 8, like ace-8 of hearts or 8-9 of hearts or 8-9 of spades type stuff. So. I don't think, I think he's got a lot more bluffs here than value. Obviously, sometimes I lose, but I think a quarter of the time for sure I am good. And this is just a pretty massive leak. So let's go to PIO. Obviously, my line is not going to match PIO's line because my opponent's line is not going to match PIO's line. That's just how this works. But obviously, the fact that I'm not matching PIO's line isn't only because of that. It's because I'm making tons of mistakes, like folding the river, yada yada. And part of this is learning how to get better. So one of the things that I did first is noticing the equity. This is better for out of position, so better for the small blind. Equity-wise, I have 45% equity. Missing these kind of overpairs and nut flush draw type stuff is pretty bad. Or it kind of dings the equity. But the interesting thing is out of position's EV is way worse than my EV, right? Like he has these like random 2-overs that just have to see that once and give up, or like, with the backdoor flush draw type stuff. And this is just kind of like, I have less equity but more EV in the pot, and that's just kind of like why playing in position is so good. So anyway, PIO for him really likes a 1/3 bet, right? I saw that the 2/3 bet was kind of weird. And 1/3 or check mostly, I guess, is what he's doing. He's pretty much mixing it with all of his hands. The hands that are mostly checking are hands like 5s and 6s, I guess, which block my bluffs like 6-5, 8-5, those types of hands. Interesting, he's checking aces. Checking more often with a backdoor flush draw. I guess that's just how it is. I don't really understand that. That's something weird to me. Every time I think I see I have a backdoor flush draw and I bet or check, PIO always tells me to do the opposite, so I won't pretend to know why that's happening. But hopefully over the course of learning, I understand. He does bet 4, and we're going to take a really weird frequency line here at this point. Because of that sizing. And obviously, pretty happy to see that I do just call with my 7x here, and I'm never really raising except for like with 4s and my strongest aces, or strongest 7s, sorry, so like a7. And yeah, my strongest overpairs. So really my strongest valued hands, like my 4s, best 7s, best overpairs. And I'm wondering where my bluffs are at. Probably strongest flush draws. Makes sense. I probably mix in some backdoor flush draws at some point. Either way, I just call. And the turn was the queen of spades, and he bets 2/3 again. I want to make it so that the size of the normalized squares. So let's look at the equity again here. This is actually equity-wise worse for out of position than for me. Very interesting. I've now gained equity in the hand. I guess when I call, alright, so his equity here now improves with his overs with a queen, but just these random overs here that are just like, he's betting his 2 overs with a backdoor flush draw, yada yada. They just have to kind of check give up, I'm assuming. I guess he's turning these into bluffs, and this is something where PIO's going to differ. It's like, I don't think anybody's ever turning these into bluffs unless I would probably consider it spew, but I guess it's correct, especially when they have these like backdoor heart draws. I guess they're going to bluff heart rivers and give out spade rivers, and same thing with like when they have a king of spades. Interesting. I would not have expected that, but he's also checking a fair amount of 7s. That makes sense. Betting when he has a heart and checking otherwise, it looks like. Either way, he does bet 2/3, 10-7 off, pretty clear call, which is unfortunate because it probably means I'm definitely supposed to call the river. I think it was 8 of clubs. Again, looking at the equity, this is good for him because I guess a lot of my draws miss. Yeah, and his 8-5 of spades. Yada yada now is there. 6-5 gets there. That type of stuff. So he's supposed to turn his backdoor. Yeah, so a lot of times, you know, he's turning his backdoor flush draws into bluffs, and his front door flush draws are just give ups. All of his queens are betting, and probably I didn't include an overbet sizing here, but potting it seems right, especially with the strongest queen X. I'm pretty capped when I just check call. And so he can punish that with an overbet on his strongest hands, all of his fours. Yeah, turning hands like 5 high into a bluff, obviously, especially with that are backdoor spades and not front door hearts. And he's betting tiny with an 8 to get value from 7x. He bets half pot. I didn't put a half pot sizing in because I'm an idiot. And 10-7 off. My exact combo is actually close. Okay. This is if I'm being perfectly balanced and I don't know how balanced I am. What's interesting to note is that my EV is terrible on this river, and his EV is fantastic. So this is a really good card for him. I guess assuming because all of my draws miss, that I'm just going to check call with and have to fold. But 10-7 off is mixing. 10 of diamonds, 7 of clubs exactly is a call about, what does it look like? 3/4 of the time. So I guess it's okay to fold here sometimes, but against population which might overbluff flush draws and underbluff other draws, probably a call. It really depends if I think this guy is spazzing out, and I think with his stats, it's definitely possible. But yeah, that is the hand that I played, and I guess kind of relieved to see this is close. But I think it might be helpful to just run this through and see what PIO recommends. Like, I think when he bets 1/3, like PIO says this guy should do whenever he's betting, I'm probably supposed to raise here with my 7s. Pretty interesting. I would have guessed this was a raise given how wide ranges are, but really only with my strongest 7s. But I guess this is assuming a checking range, and I'm not sure this guy has one. So if we assume, like, I would be betting 1/3 here with like 100% of my range, and so I bet if I ran this with like if I node lock 100%, tools, I probably, yeah. So if I come in here and say, all right, I'm betting everything 1/3, right? I'm betting everything 1/3. What's my response here? I'm turned off the solver, so it's not going to tell me. But I would bet if I'm betting everything 1/3, then I'm supposed to raise. But we call, we see the queen of spades, and now he's betting quite a bit. He bets 2/3, 10-7 also a very easy call, river 8 of clubs. And yeah, okay, we're calling only about half the time, but more often without a spade or a heart. And I guess according to PIO, calling with a spade is better than calling with a heart, and that makes sense. Well, that's the opposite of what I would think, but fair enough. Calling without either is good too. Anyway, that seems to be everything. Obviously, still don't know a lot about this game. Because a lot of the stuff is still perplexing, yada yada. I don't know why the queen of spades is really good for me. I guess it's because he has a lot of bricks that he just checks to me and I take it down when I bet. But yeah, also interesting to see that on the flop 10-7 isn't a raise. Anyway, that's pretty much it.